Call your sponsor.
Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Welcome back to another episode of Bitch Call Your Sponsor
Call your sponsor.
with Sam and Misty. And our primary purpose is for Misty and Sam to grow
our
as friends.
as friends
And
maybe help others.
maybe help others.
Maybe.
Yeah, we're not attached to the outcome. Sam and I like to talk to each other about these deep things. And if you want to listen in, great. And if not, whatever. It's cool.
Not attached.
But one of my favorite subjects to talk about is that pesky 13 step.
Ooh.
That is our topic for today. And I have lots of experience, strength, and hope. Unfortunately, I have experience, strength, and hope on both ends of this topic.
So 13 step, I guess definition, I've heard it said, my life is unmanageable and I'd like to share it with you, is one thing I've heard. For me, it's somebody that, 13 stepper is somebody that has time in the program and goes after, well, I guess there's a distinction, right, where they tend to be predatory over somebody that is still trying to find their bearings.
Yeah, I think that's good because I do not think it's wrong if someone with 2 years finds that they are attracted and really like someone with 9 months and those two at some point form a relationship and get married. To me, that is not the 13 step, guys. The 13 step is somebody with time who specifically looks for somebody walking in the doors who's new and not familiar with the surroundings, and they're vulnerable and they know this is an easy lay because they can speak a little bit of recovery and, whoosh in and be their, knight or nitrous in shining armor and predatory.
So share your experience. I'm so curious.
I walked in and immediately I was 20. I was very early 20, and immediately met a guy named Carl. He was probably 40 years old. So he's 20 years older than me, and was like, hey, you want to get pizza and go in my vet and talk about recovery? It turns out it was a Chevette. So
we love this.
I was a little sick of being out in the bars and being this sloppy drunk and thought, there was a part of me that thought I'll walk in the doors of AA and be swooped up by some guy, because it was definitely a pick-me girl, and that way somebody can take care of me. I was looking for somebody to take care of me, and he did prey on that stuff. Luckily, he completely grossed me out, and I did not sleep with Carl. But there were several others after that, and then what I came to know as I stuck around is that these guys did this to every young thing that walked in the rooms and was vulnerable in this way, and it's just
so sleazy. To me, it's just, yeah,
it's the equivalent of a priest with a choir boy. It's the equivalent of a teacher with a student. It's the equivalent of a psychologist with a patient. Like, it is in the rooms of AA, this ranks up there to me as being so blatant of authority versus someone who just doesn't know, is like Bambi-eyed.
Yeah. So you got in the vet, Chevette. Is that what it is? The Chevette?
Yeah.
And you went and you got some pizza, and then that was kind of it. You had some pizza.
No, I went out with him a
Oh.
lot. Like
Oh, okay.
yeah, we went out a lot.
Yeah.
And at one point we went to a club. What was I doing? I was like less than 30 days sober, and I'm going to a dance club
Wow.
with this guy thinking this is what the program looks like.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first picture of a big book that I really saw.
Yeah.
And we're at that club, and I see him buying drinks for other girls because he had his ID and they were underage.
Wow.
And I was like, Misty, come on. Like, I know you're not in a really good state right now, but this is probably not the man for you.
Yeah. And so how long did that continue for?
It was my first 30 days, and he
Got
was
it.
one of many. I mean, there was the guy who wanted to give me a massage, but he was a massage therapist.
Right.
So it would have raised red flags, but we're sitting there hanging out and he asked to give me a massage, but that's his job. So maybe, and it's like as a woman, I was just thinking these men aren't really, my self-esteem was so low. I did not think that they were attracted to me. I didn't have it on board to think that they were attracted to me. I literally thought this was part of the program.
Got it. Wow. And then were you sponsorless at the time?
I had a sponsor. Oh my God, my sponsor went on a date with Carl. Like, I'm just realized that. Like,
Wait, before or after or during?
After or during, like, right. And I was just like, she was like, I just want to let you know, I'm going to go to a concert with Carl. And I'm just like, this is weird, but I didn't know enough that it was weird. Like, now looking back, I'm like, okay, that was completely inappropriate, but I didn't know enough. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, not a great sponsor, not a good look. If you're a sponsor and you're sponsoring people, do not date the 13 steppers that are hitting on them. Just a FYI, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
So
Have you?
I've seen these predatory, like sleazy guys there, and I do identify with this, like, for me, low self-esteem. Yeah, sign me up, pick me, acceptance, validation, love, see me, hear me, those types of things. Like, yes, bring it on, totally game. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess there weren't, I guess I wasn't their type, or there just wasn't, when so I'm thinking like in the gay rooms,
Right.
there was a gentleman caller that I always thought it was a 13 step in the sense of he had more time and I was very new, like less than 3 months. And I literally thought in my brain, wow, I am getting sober and God is showing me that this is supposed to be my husband or something.
Right, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. One of the things I've heard is slip them the rod before they find God.
Oh.
It's very subtle. Get them while they're still shaking. Kind of a lot of the impetus for us starting this podcast was that I listened to a podcast called 13 Step. And it was by a reporter in New Hampshire, NPR, Lauren Kojolo. I cannot say her name, but it's super easy to look up on Spotify or anywhere. And I did like it. Okay. I really enjoyed her podcast. But one of the problems is this woman has no experience with AA. And she's, this is the person that's the subject of her interest was a man that got sober and then started doing treatment centers and was sleeping with the girls in the treatment center.
Wow.
And the podcast pretty much equates AA with this man running a treatment center, which is where I bristle. Because, yes, this is a problem in the rooms of AA. There are predators, and I would love to warn people that walk in the door, and it doesn't matter, gay, straight, anything. If this person has a lot more time or has just been around the rooms more and sees you walking in and vulnerable and goes straight in and tries to spend a lot of time with you, they are preying on your not being familiar with your surroundings. And it is a problem, like I said, but the way she went about it was so derogatory towards AA as a whole, and she didn't have the information that you and I have been in the rooms combined over 50 years.
And so if you could say something to this person, what would you say?
So glad you asked, since I already wrote her and her editor an email, which I have not received a response to. It's been over a month, but hi, Lauren. I listened to your podcast, The 13th Step. I have such and such years in recovery. In episode 4, I noticed several inaccurate, misleading statements about Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. And I would like to take this opportunity to correct the record. And then I just go into the AA doctrine forbids legal disputes. And as a result, these treatment centers have been plagiarizing the 12-step method and profiting in the millions without any association to AA. And this was not mentioned in her reporting. And that aid does not require any money and is a nonprofit, and that was not mentioned. And they recited statistics about AA's success rate. And I'm thinking, what is your source for this? Because, Sam, have you ever been to a meeting where they take roll and where they ask you your sobriety date and where they ask you if you relapsed and when they ask you when you're coming back to your next meeting?
There's no consensus anywhere that I've encountered.
Yes. I mean,
Is that what it's called? Consensus or census?
Census.
It's a consensus.
We have a consensus that there's no census.
Consent around predatory, right?
Yeah, exactly. But there's no AA meeting in the world that keeps track of its members, and that's not mentioned in it. And then, it's a compliment sandwich. Like, I enjoyed it, and I agree for the most part that there is predatory behavior, and it's prevalent in the rooms and in treatment centers. But she doesn't have any experience with this place being the last house on the block. So as much as it was a problem where in the city I got sober in, with so much of it happening everywhere, it also was like I still stayed sober through it.
I definitely think I'd like to listen to this thing. And
it's good. It's good. You would like it.
And what I'm hearing, though, is that she investigated, but then didn't necessarily have clarity around the distinction between a paid recovery situation and 12-step.
Yes, and you're a reporter, and you're doing so much research. It behooves you to not stop the research when it doesn't suit the entire hypothesis, right? Like,
right.
Don't degrade the thing that saved my life.
Yeah.
Because a completely different thing is behaving in a nonsensical way.
Right. Okay, so I'm seeing this now. Like it was conflated, both of the, right, and there wasn't the distinction because ultimately it's the predatory thing that was really the clickbait thing for her, and so that's kind of what she just pursued, and then didn't get clarity around the different organizations that she was highlighting.
Right. And I as soon as I saw 13 Step, I'm like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. Like, it's so brilliant to do a podcast about 13 Step, but to have it come from someone who is not sober and not in the program and doesn't have experience with being 13 Step, or 13 stepping, was just like, there were so many things that missed the mark. So yeah, that was a little bit of impetus of like, wait, there's people out there who probably have questions about sobriety. Oh, Sam, do you have our email handy?
Yes, we have an email address. We'll put in the notes, I guess, right?
Yes.
It's bcysponsor@gmail.com. bcysponsor@gmail.com.